Hi, this is Preston, also known as Zombie Trait on Tumblr, and today I'm going to show you how to make a render. So I've started a new game with the two sims that I'm going to make the render of. You don't have to make a new game, but I think that it makes everything a lot easier, honestly. So I've just put them on a random lot somewhere, and now we can close the game because we won't be needing it anymore. So what you're going to need now is this tool known as SimRipper. It's what's going to take your sim from the game into Blender. And when renders were first taking off, like a few months ago, I think they were on V2. So if you haven't already updated to V3, then I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do so, because it is significantly faster than V2. In V2, it could literally take like hours just to rip one sim. And this, it'll only take like a few minutes. It still kind of takes a little bit long, but it's not nearly as bad as it used to be. And then you're also going to need two versions of Blender, Blender 2.79 and Blender 2.83. If you have any experience at all with making CC or poses, then you probably already have Blender 2.79, but you will probably need 2.83. And then you'll also need Sims 4 Studio, which again, if you make CC, you probably already have this. I'm trying to make this as accessible as possible to people who have zero experience with Blender and Sims 4 Studio, but I think that having some general knowledge is going to be very helpful, but if it's not, then I think you could still manage to do this. It just might be a little bit more daunting. So now SimRipper is open, and now what we're going to do is we're going to hit select on the save game file, and it's going to take you right to your saves file. And you can sort by date modified so that the last save that you had opened will be right on top. So right here. And now we're just going to find our sim. And it'll take a few minutes. It'll probably go not responding. Yeah, there it is. It'll say not responding for a while, but it's fine. It'll load eventually. And when the sim finally loads up, then it's time to deal with all these weird buttons that you probably don't know what many of these mean, and that's okay. You don't really need to. The only thing that I press is this clean DAE mesh, and then I don't touch any of this. Of course, you could change the outfit if you needed to, or something like that, but I don't. So I'm just going to save as DAE, and again, it'll take a few minutes for it to pop up. And then I'm just going to save it as his name. And this is the part that with the old version of SimRipper used to take like hours, but now you can see that it's only going to take just a little bit of time. And there we go. And so what you should see with this version of SimRipper, remember, because the old version, I think it's a little bit different, but what you should see is the Sims name.dae, and then you should also see a diffuse picture, which is basically just a texture of your sim that looks like one of those weird bear rugs, and then you should also have a specular. And I'm just going to do that same thing for the other sim. So now I've got both sims saved, and now we're done with SimRipper, and we're going to go into Blender 2.79. And we're also going to just go ahead and open Sims 4 Studio as well. So I'm not going to be making my own pose for this. I am not good at making poses. If you want to know more, I am not your guy. But I'm going to leave some resources in the description if that is something that you're interested in. But for this, I will be using this pose. I like this one. By Lynn Subs. I'm sorry. And I found this, I'll also be leaving this blog in the description, TS4 Poses. This is just a blog that reblogs poses that I like a lot. And I've already downloaded it, so if you go to My Projects, then you can pretty much open any package file that is saved onto your computer anywhere. And so I've got it right here. And so I'm going to go here, and I'm going to change that to adult male. And we will call it Connor Pose. So now we can just go and open the pose. And I'm going to go ahead and delete this sim right here by just deleting all of this. And this is what we want to leave, the animation, the armature data, the pose, all that. And then I'm going to go to import, DAE, and then one of the sims. And his hair is all white because it's alpha. We can fix that later. And so we can click this triangle here, drag this up to the first rig, drop to set parent to object, and then we can delete this rig. And then we need to drop this down again, go down to Connor, hit the wrench, the cube, and then rig. And he's going to snap to the pose. So this might already be obvious to you, but it literally took me like making this mistake 15,000 times before I finally got it. Do not click apply right here, or else you won't be able to move him. I'll show you. So right now, we can see that we can move him around if we want to. But if I were to click apply and try to do that, then it doesn't do anything. So yeah, just make sure that you don't hit apply. And I'm going to do this with the other pose really quick. So, like I said, this is not a posing tutorial, but I am going to be editing a little bit because sometimes when you snap the sim to the pose, things tend to get a little bit weird, especially around the eyelids and eyes. You can see his eyes sort of like popping out, and it's really scary. But that's just because your sim's face isn't like the exact default Blender model, and it doesn't align perfectly with that. So sometimes you will have to edit it. So I'm going to go over to pose mode, and this should have popped up for you in this second window here. If it didn't, then you just hit this little button right here, go down to dope sheet. And from here, we can hit eyes, go down to the left eye and the right eye, and I'm going to click this button, and we're just going to fix those because that's freaky. Yeah, we'll do it one at a time. Okay. Okay, I think that's fine. And then it looks like some weird things are happening with Connor's eyelids, so let's go over here. And I'm going to click here and here. Oh, I'm on the wrong sim. No, I wasn't. Just kidding. Okay. And there's also clipping from their clothes and stuff. So mostly what I do when I'm editing poses, again, I'm having to speed up and cut out a bunch of shit, so this might not be the easiest thing to follow. But I really like to press this button right here with the little curve tool, and that's just your rotation. And then we can just control his head like that. Okay, if you do edit your pose, then what you're going to need to do is go up here, right click animation and hit clear animation data, and then hit A to select your rig, and then hit I, and then this lock rod, and then hit that. If you don't do this, then it won't save your edited pose, and it's just going to be the pose that it was before. So make sure that you do that. And now we're done with Blender 2.79, and we're ready to actually start doing the render. Okay, so now we're in Blender 2.83, and we're just going to open what we just saved in 2.79. Down here, where it shows these four little circles, I'm going to click this third one here, and they're going to be solid white. That's because they don't have their textures yet. So over here where we had our dope sheet, click that again, only this time go to shader editor. Okay, so I have to pop in because I forgot to say something. You need to go to edit and preferences, go to your add-ons, and make sure that Node Wrangler is enabled. It might already be enabled, but just in case it isn't, make sure that it is. Okay, bye. So now click your sim, go down here to this circle with the four things, the materials tab, get rid of that, and then hit new. And now you should see this. I'll make it a little bit bigger. Okay. So go to add, texture, and image texture. And go ahead and hit Shift D to make two of them. Now you're going to hit open and find the diffuse map and drag color to base color. And now he actually has color, but he's going to be like weird and shiny until you give the specular map, which you are also going to do right here, and drag color to specular. And now he's fine, but if you have alpha hair or the 3D eyelashes, then it's going to be black, which is really easy to fix, and we're going to do it in a minute. But for right now, we're going to go back to add, go to shader, and mix shader, put it in between these two. Now drag this BSDF down to the second shader, and drag this FAC over here to the alpha of your diffuse. And then go to add again, hit shader, transparent, put it here, BSDF to the second shader. And now, to fix his eyelashes and his hair, we're just going to scroll down here to blend mode and hit alpha hashed. And as you can see, it fixed them. So I'm just going to go and do this again, the exact same thing to Connor, and be right back. Okay. Now, depending on who you are, you might think that the hard part is over. I know that this might be confusing what we just did, but I promise that once you do it a few times, it's going to become second nature to you. Like I just have it memorized. Like I don't know what a mix shader is or what like FAC is, but you know, it's just a matter of memorization and you'll get it eventually. But for me, honestly, I consider that to be the easy part because now comes the lighting, which I hate doing. Um, First of all, I'm going to go up here and delete all of this. And if you click this fourth circle, then you're going to go into the viewport shading, which is going to show you what like the actual render is going to look like. And as you can see, it went dark because we don't have any lights right now. I will link some tutorials in the description to try to help you. Blender Guru, I really love his videos. He has some great stuff. I would really recommend looking at some of his videos. And another thing that I'm going to say is that an outdoor scene is infinitely harder than an indoor scene, and like that's not just a me thing, that is something that like people who do Blender for a living who have never played The Sims say. So don't feel bad if you are struggling to pull that off because it's hard. So I would recommend if this is your first Blender to try to do something indoors. And I think that's what I'm going to do. This is going to be a really simple render. I think I'm just going to put them like a plain background just with some lighting because we're not trying to do anything crazy for this tutorial. So I'm going to go down to Mesh and I'm going to hit Q and I'm going to hit S and make it really big, hit G and Z and then move it up. And then I'm going to go into edit mode and then I'm going to click this button, hit Alt A and click here, here, and here, and here, and then hit X, oh, X, and delete faces. And then we just got like a little backdrop thing. And I think I want to, I'm hitting S and X, and G and Z again. And we're just gonna move it up. And we can use our materials tab to change the color of this. I think I just want it to be, I think black would work. It might blend into their shirts a little bit. No, I think it'll work. Okay. So one thing I will say about lighting is that the world color in the tab with the glow is that the world color is actually acting as a light itself. You could make it like super bright, or you could set it to black and do all the lighting by yourself. And you could also make it different colors and stuff. But I really like for it to be black, honestly. Especially if you're doing like some like dramatic lighting, I think it'll be really helpful. So now we can start from scratch with the lighting. And again, I'm probably going to have to speed up a bunch of stuff or cut some stuff out because a lot of me figuring out lighting is just like throwing shit to the wall and seeing what sticks. But I will try to help you with the best stuff I can. So I'm going to go to light, point. I like the point lamps the best. I'm going to hit G and Z. If you go down here to the light bulb tab, and then you've got all of these, and again, you could change it from here, but again, I like the point lamps. Now, radius, or if you're in cycles render, it'll be size, is going to determine like sharp shadows or really soft shadows. I think that white lighting can look really good, but if you wanted to do it a little bit differently, I've heard that cool lighting in the back, warm lighting in the front. I don't remember where I heard that, but it seems like solid advice. So we'll try that. Have a little bit of purple in the back here. if you're going to be doing an Eevee render, which we're not, but if you are, you can use this contact shadows button, which will give you this really nice effect. Okay, I think I'm liking how this is looking. So, like I said, we are going to be doing a cycles render instead of Eevee. Eevee is what accounts for a lot of the like plasticky, sort of Play-Doh looking renders. Some people can pull that off really well. I'm not one of those people. So I prefer cycles render, which is going to take a lot longer to load. And when you first switch to cycles, it might be super bright. That's because you need to go to the World tab again, where ambient occlusion, undo that. And now it's fine. So even though I'm doing a cycles render, I still work in Eevee because, as you can see, cycles, anytime you move, it just does all that. So I think that cycles, like, it looks pretty much the same, but just a little bit more, like, realistic. So now we're ready to add our camera. We can go to Add, Camera, and something that you can do is you can get it in a place that you think looks good, and then hit Control Alt 0, and then it's going to take your camera to that spot. And now we're in perspective mode, and you might want to leave it in perspective mode, but I would prefer it to be in orthographic. That's like when you hit 5. And this orthographic scale, that's like zooming in and out. And of course, Shift Y, Shift X. So I don't want to do this, but if you wanted it to be in portrait mode, then you would just hit R and then Z. Oh, not Z. R and then Y and then 90, and then it's going to be in that mode. And it will be flipped, and you'll have to flip it yourself in like Photoshop or whatever, but it's not that big of a deal. But I actually want it in landscape mode. So here's something I think you'll like. So I'm gonna hit 0 to go into camera mode, and then I'm gonna hit home so that it fills the entire screen. And then you can go to view, navigation, walk navigation, and then you've got like tab mode basically. You can use your arrow keys left and right to move, and then the top and the up and down arrow keys are going to be zoom, and you can just use WASD to. Alright, I think I like where that is. So I'm going to switch over to cycles, and then you can see where it's all spotty and grainy. That's because our samples are only at 10. The viewport is what we're seeing here, but what really matters is render. So I think that 150 to 200 is a good number. 150 is something that I'd use for something really simple like this. And let's see if I can remember where this is. Is it here? Yeah, okay. So over here in this tab, the layer properties, scroll all the way down to denoising and just toggle that on. And now we're actually just ready to export the image. So cycles render is going to take a little bit longer, but in my opinion, I think it looks better. So you just go to render, render image, and it'll take like 5 to 15 minutes usually. This one isn't going to take as long because it's just like 2 sims and a background. But something with a little bit more going on would take longer. Alright, and there's your render. Now, and then I'm just going to go to image, and you just save it. And this is just where I take it into Photoshop and, do my thing. But I think that looks pretty good, honestly. I think that alpha hair renders so fucking sexy. So I'm not going to show you my Photoshop process because I think this is going to be a long enough video, but yeah, this is what you do. This is how you make a render. Okay. I hope this was somewhat helpful to you, and I hope you have a good day or night or whatever, and I'll see you later.